Guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go an article titled, Women Aren't Nags, We're Just Fed Up. Emotional labor is the unpaid job men still don't understand. And guys, for any of you guys right now that are married or living with a girlfriend, or any of you guys that once were married and once lived with a girlfriend but are on your own, this is something that all you guys can relate to. It will really hit home. Because you all know darn well how much women can nag about pretty much everything known to man, but particularly about household chores and things like that. And this whole article is this woman carrying on about not only just about being annoyed and frustrated and fed up about how her husband and guys in general don't obviously do the chores in a timely manner that she's happy with, in the way that she's happy with, all that. But also fed up that guys, in her view, she's upset because guys basically aren't mind readers to what women want. But then again, we all know they don't know what they want, so that's, put that aside. But she's going to this whole thing about as she says here, the emotional labor that women go through. In other words, the stress and anxiety of having to be fed up that the guys aren't participating with the chores and all that, and basically kind of making guys out to be a bunch of bums that don't do anything, don't lift a finger around the house, which is complete nonsense because most guys, by and large, we take care of things that need to be taken care of. But here's the thing. We're going to do it in our own pace. We're going to do things in a time frame we're happy with. We're going to do things the way we want them to be done. But most of the time, they're not happy with that, okay? And any of you guys, again, that are married right now or once married or live with a woman, you can understand what I'm talking about here. So she's going to go into this whole thing, and you're going to see what I'm talking about here. And a lot of this, again, is total stereotype, but it's dead on. And then later on, throughout the article, I'll share my 2 cents because I was one of these guys that I've lived with different women, and I know exactly where from the guy's perspective on this, where things are coming from. So it starts off saying, for Mother's Day, I asked for one thing, a house cleaning service. Bathrooms and floors specifically. Windows if the extra expense was reasonable. The gift for me was not so much in the cleaning itself, but the fact that for once, I would not be in charge of the household office work. I would not have to make the calls, get multiple quotes, research, and vet each service, arrange payment, and schedule the appointment. The real gift I wanted was to be relieved at the emotional labor of a single task that had been nagging at the back of my mind. The clean house would simply be a bonus. Okay, so she wants someone to come by and clean the house. And she doesn't have to worry about that and all that stuff. But you know what? Who is all this worrying on? It's on her. Getting all worked up and getting emotional and worried and obsessed about doing this thing. When simply it's just making a phone call, telling the person to come by the house at this time and clean the place, that's that. But she's already making a mountain out of a molehill here. My husband waited for me to change my mind to an easier gift than house cleaning, something he could one-click order on Amazon. Disappointed by my unwavering desire, the day before Mother's Day, he called a single service, decided they were too expensive, and vowed to clean the bathrooms himself. He still gave me the choice, of course. He told me the high dollar amount of completing the cleaning services that I requested, and asked incredulously if I still wanted him to book it. In other words, husband's looking to save some money, which guys usually are going to do. But she just wants to hire somebody to come over and clean the house. Personally, it was me. Given the fact that I have a little free time, I would just hire somebody to come over to clean the house. But a lot of guys are looking to save a buck here and there. Typical guy. What I wanted was for him to ask friends on Facebook for a recommendation. Call 4 or 5 more services, do the emotional labor that I would have done if the job had fallen to me. I had wanted him to hire out deep cleaning for a while, especially since my freelance work had picked up considerably. The reason I hadn't done it yet was part of guilt over not doing my housework, and even larger part of not wanting to deal with the work of hiring a service. I knew exactly how exhausting it was going to be. That's why I asked my husband to do it as a gift. Well, right then and there, why does it have to be that exhausting? Right? And then why does he have to go through all that shit just to make her feel better? In my mind, she's doing that on purpose, so she wants him to know what she has to go through. But a guy isn't going to make a mountain out of a molehill, because she describes this whole process of having to consult with people and do this. A guy would literally open up the freaking Yellow Pages or whatever, or Google a local cleaning place, pick one, tell them to come over at 3 o'clock, done. Not this whole emotional turmoil crap that she's describing here. All this is unnecessary. So women get so worked up over so many things. It's just mountain out of a molehill. It's completely unnecessary. Guys aren't that way, at least most guys. According to Dr. Michelle Ramsey, Associate Professor of Communication, Arts, and Sciences at Penn State's Berks, emotional labor is often conflated with problem solving. The gendered assumption is that men are the problem solvers because women are too emotional. Well, women are too emotional. She demonstrated that right here in the first couple paragraphs of this article. But who is really solving the bulk of the world's problems at home and in the office? As a household manager for my husband and 3 kids, I'm fairly certain I know the answer. I was gifted a necklace for Mother's Day while my husband stole away to deep clean the bathrooms, leaving me to care for our children as the rest of the house fell into total disarray. So husband didn't hire somebody because he wants to save some money, but he is taking time out of his schedule to clean the house. The house is getting cleaned. In his mind, he was doing the same thing I had most wanted, giving me sparkling bathrooms without having to do it myself. Which is why he was frustrated when I ungratefully passed by, not looking at his handiwork as I put away his shoes, shirts, and socks that had been left on the floor. I stumbled over the box of gift wrap he had pulled off a high shelf 2 days earlier and left in the center of our closet. In order to put it back, I had to get a kitchen chair and drag it into our closet so I could reach the shelf where it belonged. Who cares? You pick up a stupid box and put up on it in the closet. Big deal. And she's complaining because the guy just left it there for 2 days. Well, as a typical guy, that's not that big a deal to us. We'll get around to moving it when we get around to moving it. And if she doesn't like that, she can simply, as she described, get a chair, stand up on it, and put it on the shelf. That takes a whole whopping, 25 seconds. See? Mountain out of a molehill. All you have to do is ask me to put it back, he said, watching me struggle. There you go. Just bring it up. But women want guys to be mind readers. It doesn't work that way. We are not Professor X. We can't read minds. If women want guys to do something, bring it up. Ask. End of story. But they don't do that. They want you to be a mind reader. They'll drop hints and have innuendos and things like that. Hope we figure it out. Doesn't work that way. It was obvious that the box was in the way, that it needed to be put back. It would have been easy for him to just reach up and put it away. But instead, he had stepped around it, willfully ignoring it for 2 days. It was up to me to tell him that he should put it away, something he got out in the first place. That's the point, I said, now in tears. I don't want to have to ask. See? Again, men are not mind readers. It doesn't work that way. This is why communication is so important. You talk about it. Women, if they want a guy to do something, again, this is for those who do marriage or relationships, live with a woman. I recommend you don't, but if you do, you got to communicate. You got to get her to open up and say, you need to tell me specifically what you want. Don't expect me to be a mind reader. It doesn't work that way. I don't have superpowers. The crying, the snapping at him, it all required damage control. I had to tell him how much I appreciate the bathroom cleaning, but perhaps he could do it another time. And she says, like when our kids were in bed. Then I tried to gingerly explain the concept of emotional labor. Oh, for goodness sake. That I was the manager of the household, and that being manager was a lot of thankless work. Delegating work to other people, i.e. telling him to do something he should instinctively know to do, is exhausting. Back to the mind reading thing. I try to tell him that I noticed the box at least 20 times over the past 2 days. The fact that she mentioned the box 20 times shows how psycho she's being over a stupid box. She can move the box. It's not that hard. He had noticed it only when I was heaving it to the top shelf instead of asking for help. The whole explanation took a lot of restraint. So much problems be solved if there was communication. That's it. Walking that fine line to keep the peace and not upset your partner is something women are taught to accept as their duty from an early age. In general, we gender emotions in our society by continuing to reinforce the false idea that women are always, naturally and biologically, able to feel, express, and manage our emotions better than men, says Lisa Hubner, a sociologist of gender who both publishes and teaches on the subject of emotional labor at West Chester University in Pennsylvania. She's quoted saying, This is not to say that some individuals do not manage emotion better than others as part of their own individual personality. But I would argue that we still have no firm evidence that this ability is biologically determined by sex. Hey, at the end of the day, men go by logic and reason, and women are emotion. End of story. Women are emotional beings, okay? And you need guys that are logical and calm to calm them down when they get worked up. That's, of course, if you do relationships, or if you don't want to do relationships, you don't have to bother with that bullshit. But that's how it works. Hence her getting worked up over the stupid box in the closet and mentioning it 20 times, she said. It's a stupid box. She could have moved it, and guess what? She could have moved it. And again, this whole thing about the emotional turmoil, guess what? They put that on themselves by getting themselves all worked up over just stuff that really isn't that big a deal. Guys generally don't sweat the small stuff, okay? It's not worth it. Guys have much bigger things on their minds to worry about and to deal with and be responsible for, okay? And again, her complaining about these things with her husband, I guarantee he's got other bigger things on his mind. Things way more important than a stupid box in the closet. But we all know, some of us will be able to figure out that it isn't just the box that's gotten her upset. It's the fact that he didn't care to move the box. Okay, I can read between the lines here. I have enough life experience. But at the end of the day, guys simply are different. We don't, again, sweat the small things. We don't care about stupid little things like that. Okay? Goes on, at the same time, and I would argue because it's not natural difference, we find all kinds of ways in society to ensure that girls and women are responsible for emotions, and then men get a pass. Well, again, that's how nature designed us to be. Women are emotional beings, and men are more on logic and reason based. Don't blame men, don't blame me, blame nature. If someone wants to be upset about this, blame nature. That's how nature designed us to be. Nature, God, whoever you subscribe to, blame them. My husband is a good man and a good feminist ally. I could tell as I walked him through it, and he was trying to grasp what I was getting at. But he didn't. He said he tried to do more cleaning around the house to help me out. He restated that all I ever needed to do was ask for help. Right there. Just ask. Bring it up. Not that hard. But listen to this. But therein lies the problem. I don't want to micromanage housework. I want to partner with equal initiative. Well, men and women are different. A guy, in his mind, the house could be clean. But in her mind, it's not clean. Okay? That's where communication again comes in. Don't expect a guy to be on the same level as you. This is for women. If, it doesn't work that way. Some guys are clean freaks, but it's rare. But we're going to be different. We're going to handle things differently. So that's just how it is. If you don't like that, then you should have gotten with the guy in the first place. Live alone. However, it's not easy as telling him that. My husband, despite his good nature and admirable intentions, still responds to criticism in a very patriarchal way. She's getting all the buzzwords in here. Notice that? Forcing him to see emotional labor is the work it feels. Forcing him to see emotional labor for the work it is feels like a personal attack on his character. If I were to point out random emotional labor duties I carry out, reminding him of family birthdays, carrying in my head the entire school handbook and dietary guidelines for lunches, updating the calendar to include everyone's schedules, asking his mother to babysit the kids when we go out, keeping track of what food and household items are running low, tidying everyone's strewn about belongings, the unending hell that is laundry, he would take it as me saying, look at everything I'm doing that you're not. You're a bad person for ignoring me and not pulling your weight. Oh, for goodness sake, this is ridiculous. And by the way, that laundry list, literally laundry list of things she had there, a lot of those things, I don't care what anybody says, clearly falls in the category of wife jobs, mom duties, okay? Remembering birthdays and all these other things, that's what wives and moms do, okay? Just let's be honest here. Come on here. It's just better that some things the man handles and some things the wife or the mom handles. It's just much smoother. Just assign those tasks and leave it as is. Bearing the brunt of all this emotional labor in a household is frustrating. It's the word I hear most commonly when talking to friends about the subject of all the behind-the-scenes work they do. In other words, she gets together with her girlfriends that are married and they basically complain about their husbands and all that, But what would they do if they didn't have anything to complain about? There would be no drama, right? But as I've told you before, women love drama. So if there was no drama, they would oftentimes create drama. Not all, but a lot, okay? As I said before, women are drawn to drama like moth to a flame. It's frustrating to be saddled with all these responsibilities. No one to acknowledge the work you're doing and no way to change it without a major confrontation. She says, what bothers me the most about having any conversation around emotional labor is being seen as a nag, says Kelly Birch, a freelance journalist who works primarily from home. My partner feels irritated and defensive by the fact that I'm always pointing out what he's not doing. It shuts him down. I understand why it would be frustrating from his perspective, but I haven't figured out another way to make him aware of all the emotional and mental energy I'm spending to keep the house running. Again, nagging. She wants it this way. You know how many guys are more than willing to clean and organize things and do all that, But still, it's not good enough for their live-in girlfriend or their wife. So the guys then figure, they throw their hands in the air and say, you know what? It's not even worth me doing it because no matter what I do, she's not going to be happy. She's not going to like how I do it. She's not going to like the time frame that I do this. So you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to do anything and she can deal with it. That's what happens to a lot of guys. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that, okay? I had a girlfriend once that was like that. It was a giant pain in the ass. So I was like, you don't like how I'm doing it? You can do it. End of story. And that caused more drama and bullshit, which is one of the many, many reasons I live alone. It continues, even having a conversation about the imbalance of emotional labor becomes emotional labor. It gets to a point where I have to weigh the benefits of getting my husband to understand my frustration against the compounded emotional labor of doing so in a way that won't end up in us fighting. Usually I let it slide, reminding myself that I'm lucky to have a partner who willingly complies to any task I decide to assign him. I know compared to many women, including female family members and friends, I have it so easy. My husband does a lot. He does dishes every night, habitually. He often makes dinner. He will handle bedtime for the kids when I'm working. If I ask him to take on extra chores, he will, without complaint. It feels greedy at times to want more from him. So guys, you've heard me do this whole article so far about her complaining about all these things, but now she's now realizing, wait a second, my husband's actually pretty good because he does all these things. He does dishes every night. He cooks, takes care of the kids. He doesn't wig out if she asks him to do additional chores and all that. I have it pretty good compared to everybody else. I read that. You all heard this, right? Even though all the complaining she was doing before this. So this lady ought to count her blessings. But as I said before, you can't make them happy. She continues, yet I find myself worrying about the mental load bore almost exclusively by women translate into a deep gender inequality that is hard to shake on the personal level. It is difficult to model an egalitarian household for my children when it is clear that I am the household manager tasked with delegating any and all household responsibilities or taking on the full load myself. I can feel my sons and daughters watching our dynamic all the time, gleaming the role for themselves as they grow older. When I brush my daughter's hair and elaborately braid it in round the side of her scalp, I'm doing the thing that is expected of me. When my husband brushes out tangles before bedtime, he needs his efforts noticed and congratulated. Hey, look, the mom working with the girl's hair only makes sense because she's a woman and knows best how to handle hair. A guy who's likely to have short hair his whole life is not going to know exactly how to handle brushing a girl's hair. So it is best, let the mom do it. And of course the husband's going to mention this when he has to do it because the wife's busy. She says, when my husband brushes out tangles before bedtime, he needs his efforts noticed and congratulated, saying aloud in front of both me and her that it took him a whole 15 minutes. There are many small examples of where I work, where the work I normally do must be lauded when transferred to my husband. It seems like a small annoyance, but its significance looms larger. Now she's back to complaining. She was complaining, then she was actually, realizing he's a pretty darn good guy and I'm lucky, but now she's back to complaining. My son will boast of his clean room and any other jobs he has done. My daughter will quickly put her clothes in the hamper and get dressed each day without being asked. They are 6 and 4 respectively. Unless I engage in this conversation on emotional labor and actively change the roles we inhabit, our children will do the same. They are already following in our footsteps. We are leading them towards the same imbalance. Oh, for goodness sake. Guess what, lady? If your kids are good, well-mannered, respectful children that do their chores, which they obviously do, and are polite and not a problem in society and all that, guess what? You're pretty fortunate. So stop complaining. And guess what? Boys are going to be boys and girls are going to be girls. That's just how it is, how nature designed us. Stop trying this whole changing the genders thing and making the girls more like boys and the boys more like girls. It ain't going to end well, okay? Cut it out. Children learn their communication patterns and gender roles, and she says in parentheses, kids can recognize proper gender behavior by age 3 from a variety of people and institutions, but their parents are the ones that they, in theory, interact with the most, says Dr. Ramsey. So if we want to change the expectations of emotional labor for the next generation, it has to start at home. For parents, this means making sure that one spouse does not do more of that type of labor than the other. Speaking in terms of how emotional labor is currently divided, girls will hopefully learn not to expect to do that labor, and boys will hopefully learn not to expect females to do that labor for them. Children watching parents share that emotional labor will be more likely to be children who expect that labor to be shared in their own lives. At the end of the day, regardless of what task it is, if somebody is better doing a certain job, if the woman's better doing certain tasks around the house, she should do it. And if the guy's better doing certain tasks around the house, he should do it. And they should both communicate on who's going to do what and leave it alone. And she should back off him and he should back off her. End of story. Not this whole let's make everybody equal and blah, 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 and this whole emotional turmoil bullshit that we're hearing in this article. This is not yet another term to add to the giant list of terms and phrases that we have in this day and age, you know, that basically for people to complain about. She finishes up saying, I know it's not going to be easy for either of us to tackle the splitting of emotional labor, nor do I ever expect it to be completely equitable. I'll admit that I probably enjoy certain types of emotional labor far more than my husband, like planning our meals and vacations. Oh, now she's saying she likes some of these things. I think she's a control freak. And actually, no, she is a control freak because she wants everything done her way or the highway, how she wants it done, the time frame she wants it done, and so on and so forth, which a lot of women are. And guess what? Try being a control freak around a guy, he's going to eventually resent the hell out of her and start thinking about an exit strategy. I'm also more skilled at emotional labor on the whole because I've had my entire life to practice it. But if we're lucky, he got a whole lot of life left to hone his emotional labor skills and to change the course of our children's future. Our sons can still learn to carry their own weight. Our daughter can learn to not carry others. Well, she can learn from her mother by not getting so worked up and getting so emotional about things that really don't matter. But, as I said before, women generally are emotional beings, and they tend to, a lot of them, make mountains out of molehills and get all worked up. But also, we all know darn well, women like to complain. And that gives them an opportunity to get together with their girlfriends, as she says she does, and basically talk about the guys. And she can listen to the other girls complaining about their husbands. And she can jump in and have her moment in the spotlight and complain about hers, and back and forth, back and forth. And ultimately, if all of a sudden guys start doing everything that their wives wanted around the house, and there was no reason to complain, what would happen? A lot of them would start to get bored. So they have to find new ways to create some drama and something to complain about. Or they complain that he's too easy. Things are boring. I need some excitement. No joke. So there's no making them happy. But anyhow, guys, situations like this, the best thing that a couple can do for a guy for any of you guys now that are married, living with your girlfriends, and you're obviously not going anywhere anytime soon, you sit them down and you explain to her, look, we need to communicate. I need you to tell me and explain to me certain things, how you're feeling, what you're thinking with regards to chores and duties, because I am not a mind reader, okay? And don't put aside this nonsense that I should know how you feel, or I should want to do the dishes, or I should want to take the trash out on time, or some bullshit like that, or put the stupid box back up in the closet in the right space. Okay, communication is key. Okay, both parties. And understand, ladies, because I get some women that watch my videos, men aren't mind readers. You got to talk to us and explain in detail. Okay, we're not mind readers. Okay, so, and for the rest of you guys that are on your own and you're not dealing with this bullshit, you can then sit back and smile and realize you're not going to have to deal with this crap. And keep this in mind if you think later on down the road it's a great idea to move in with your girlfriend or get married, because these are things you're going to have to deal with. Mark my words. So, alright guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know your similar experiences in this department. Let me know what you did, for those of you guys that have been through this before, what you did to handle the situation, or to just get worse and worse and worse and you left. I'd like to know. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.